Hi, my name is Garrett Bekker. I'm a Principal Research Analyst at S&P Global Market Intelligence, and my principal coverage area is identity and access management, but I also cover zero trust security and cloud security. For all their shortcomings, passwords actually have some obvious benefits. The first off is they're fairly simple, at least conceptually. They're also fairly inexpensive. And perhaps most importantly, they work with just about everything. They'll work with Radius servers, they'll work with Windows resources, they'll work with databases, and they'll also work with most legacy applications. The downside to passwords, for obvious reasons, they're easy to forget, they're easy to break, they're easily stolen. The challenge is that MFA also has its own shortcomings, including cost, convenience, complexity, both to use and deploy, and especially the user experience. However, one of the biggest challenges with MFA that's often not talked about very much is that a lot of IT resources and applications simply don't support multi-factor authentication. They can only use a password. In fact, our data shows that setup costs, lack of support for applications and IT resources, and a poor user experience are among the three top barriers to deploying MFA. So again, in conclusion, while MFA has a lot of benefits, it's also got many shortcomings of its own. There are several factors pushing enterprises to adopt passwordless MFA over standard MFA. One of the first ones is data breaches, and depending on which source or which study you read, somewhere around 80 or 90% of every breach is due to a stolen or compromised credential at some point. The related statistic is that over 50% of enterprises are attacked or breached each year, according to S&P Global data, which is actually a staggering number, and I'd argue that more widespread use of multi-factor authentication could actually help us reduce that number. A third factor is phishing, and our data continues to show that phishing is one of the biggest attack vectors and still a major IT pain point. Lastly, and most importantly, firms are looking for authentication solutions with less user friction and more security. Traditionally, there's been a trade-off between security and usability with respect to authentication, and the more secure an authentication form factor is, typically the harder it is to deploy and harder it is to use. One of the benefits of passwordless is it helps us achieve the holy grail of authentication in the sense that we can have both better security and a better user experience at the same time. So I think collectively each of these factors are driving enterprises to look more closely at passwordless authentication as opposed to legacy or more traditional MFA. Organizations are looking to move beyond legacy MFA towards passwordless, but the challenge is that a lot of them are confused and they're not really sure how to get there. Part of the issue is they really don't have a full understanding of what passwordless MFA really means. And I think part of the blame falls on authentication vendors for making a wide range of claims about what passwordless is and what it isn't and what it can do, and also probably from the analyst community as well. But I also think there's an issue that organizations think what they have in place for MFA now will really protect them from phishing attacks or man-in-the-middle attacks, and they really won't. And part of the problem is many rely on a shared secret, whether it be SMS-based or push-based or one-time passwords. Those are all vulnerable to interception by bad guys, and therefore they're not perhaps as secure as firms might think they are. The other issue is finding that balance between usability and security. And this is common in security overall. Tends to be the more secure something is, the harder it is to use. And we find with MFA, if it's too complex, people will figure out a way around it and just won't use it. The promise of passwordless is it really offers us the holy grail, so to speak, of both better security and a better user experience. Lastly, I think it's important for firms to look for a passwordless solution that will really work with whatever existing IAM estate they have, certainly past investments and maybe in single sign-on or access management, identity governance. Firms will ideally want a solution that will work with what they have and that they don't actually have to rip and replace.